Ayo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app today and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome into a remote version of the CHGO White Sox podcast and an early version of the CHGO White Sox podcast. Move up to 11 a.m. today because we got a very special CHGO event that we're excited to tell you about in the upcoming days. But obviously, we got to go do the event before we tell people about the event. How can we tell people about the event if we don't know what's going to happen at the event? So very excited for that later on today. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. We got the full CHGO White Sox crew with me. Vinnie Duber underneath. You got the CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's got a brand new piece up at allchgo.com about Liam Hendriks, and that is free and unlocked. I feel like we should just be emphasizing that because I saw on Twitter someone being like, oh, you should unlock this post. They've been unlocked for about 2 months now, people. So if you see Vinny's posting, they're probably 95% of them are going to be unlocked. The only ones that weren't were his little diary from Australia about cricket. So some fun stuff for diehards too. And that's Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We got a kind of packed show today. We're going to try to make this fun, a little bit lighter after what we talked about yesterday and on Sunday with Liam Hendriks. We do have Carlos Correa possibly making a return to Minnesota, a third team just this offseason for Carlos Correa. We have Johnny Cueto leaving the South Side to the South. And then we will be talking
to the South Beach, Sean. Come on, it was right there for you.
Damn it. I just said South, and I felt pretty good about myself because that's the region. But yeah, no,
People
South
were like,
Beach.
what? He's going to Alabama? What's happening?
Right. Yeah. South Beach is a little bit more specific. And then we also got the third version of who he play for. Hopefully we get the rules and regulations right. Herb, what are you drinking? Some emergency?
It is emergency.
There you go. All right.
Look at that guess.
Herb's feeling a little under the weather. He needs that vitamin C. Maybe vitamin Carlos Correa, vitamin C in that way. That's a Scott Boras pun to just really shoehorn this topic.
That was even Scott Boris's are better than that, Sean. That one.
That's fine.
Bad.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
Herb, Sean won't understand this reference, but Herb, Sean should have gone with the vitamin C reference. You know, that graduation song that we all hear at when we were youths.
That one that's
have I split the pop culture reference continuum perfectly there? Is that only for someone of my age?
The one by Can?
Is that As We Grow Up?
Yes,
that one?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm good. Just
that
terrible song.
Yeah,
I was out of school by that time, but yeah, I remember that song.
Would you rather that one or the Green Day one?
Well, the Green Day one is misused. It's a very much a Ronald Reagan using "Born in the USA" type situation. You know, it's a breakup song, and everybody uses it as a fond farewell. So don't do that to Green Day. Let them have their intent on that song.
Just like the song "St. Patrick's Day" by John Mayer is not a song celebrating St. Patrick's Day. It's a song about we're just staying together until I have a chance to break up with you until St. Patrick's Day.
Aren't most John Mayer songs about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like John Mayer's songs are just about being sleazy. Hey, everyone in the chat as well. What's up, Alex? Who's your daddy? Rusted, KPW, thank you for joining us on this early show. And let's get into the Correa talk. Who's your daddy saying, no way Cohen lets Correa go to the Twins. But we get a report last night from Ken Rosenthal and Dan Hayes of The Athletic that Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins, the odds are increasing that these two come to a deal. We know that the Mets and Correa announced a deal for $315 million. But we haven't even heard another press conference being set up for that. We haven't really heard.
They
that
didn't announce a deal,
official.
Sean. They didn't announce a deal.
John Heyman, Steve Cohen did.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you got to listen. These things. There's a reason that we designate things as being reported versus being official. And these days on the internet, people see something on Twitter and they go, "Oh, that's true. Okay, done. Fact is closed." This is why you wait and you call things reported until they're official. I mean, that's not why, really. You do that when things could be reported incorrectly. At least this time around, things have been reported correctly, but certainly it's not official yet. So, and because of these screw ups on the physical front or miscommunications there. So a real interesting. I mean, it's just wild. I would like to keep this situation going for another couple of months just because it's so fun to follow, but very weird. And, hey, kudos to the Twins for trying to make something happen here as the Mets and Correa have dragged. I mean, this has been 2-3 weeks at this point that this is gone on. So, hey, I'm sure White Sox fans would be happy to see him out of the AL Central. But for my money, I'll have him keep bouncing around from team to team the rest of the winter. That would be fun.
I think that for what Vinny was talking about, Steve Cohen has said, he, being Carlos Correa, is the final piece to our puzzle here. And so him speaking on a player that hasn't been signed yet could get him into trouble. So for all intents and purposes, he needs to sign with the New York Mets, and Steve Cohen knows that. So
because we know how much Steve Cohen is not going to pay a fine. We know he would never pay a fine. He would never consider such a thing.
There's a lot of things though. Like the fine is fine, but the egg on the face, the rookie mistake, the chiding from the other owners saying, "Come on now, you should know that." I mean, we know that as lay people, and myself as a lay person, and Sean, but you're more into the business, Vinny, so you would know that a little bit more. But how can you not know that? Hey, until the ink is dry, don't talk about the specific player. You can beat around the bush, but don't talk about the specific player. And I think this Minnesota thing is just a masterstroke by Scott Boras to keep the fires going. Just if New York is not coming to play ball, which they probably won't be because they're trying to figure out what's wrong with his ankle that he hurt in his minor league career, you're signing him for 12 years. That's going to push him into his 40s. So that is probably going to be a problem from time to time going down the road. There's probably going to be language introduced into the deal where Scott or don't there. And so Minnesota's there. I'm thinking probably they're like, we'll just take him for the 285 and we'll deal with the ankle if it messes up later on. And there'll be no offset language, no different language from that, because Carlos Correa, the player, it's worth it. For Minnesota, it's much worth it. I'm rooting for the Mets to get the job done, but there's no downside for the Minnesota Twins signing Carlos Correa for my money. That, Byron Buxton, all the young players they got coming up, it's all good. And I hope the New York Mets wise up and just give the man what he wants so he doesn't play in this division, because I hate seeing it. I not like the player because he's so great.
Yeah, well, it makes me nervous. I mean, just the door's still open. The Twins still could be the landing spot. Maybe third time's the charm here. Just the fact that they already approved a deal for him, and I know it wasn't 10 years long, but I think that this has to be the team that just if they can agree to the salary, they're going to be announcing him, right? Like, it feels like the Mets, it is Steve Cohen's idea to sign Carlos Correa. He's the one giving quotes to John Heyman. John Heyman's obviously going to run this story because Steve Cohen himself is giving him quotes. I'm not shocked that it was reported, but I do think that if there is a team to close the deal, I do think it's Minnesota. And I just wonder, we saw a month ago, it'd be 13 years, 350. Then 8 days after that, it was 10 years, 315. The original Minnesota offer, according to, I think it was The Athletic, was 285 for 10. So do they add that extra 15, or is that where their medicals say it's, he's a 28.5 million AAV player and we don't really want to take any risk higher than that? I don't know. It's fascinating to see, if Correa will just end up settling taking under 300 million because of this entire ordeal. I also do hey, the White Sox, are they out of this? Does this keep open the door for any team though? I was just more opening that door.
Thank you, Vinny.
No, listen.
I don't think the White Sox are signing him. Sorry.
We're hearing about the Twins because they've already offered him a 10-year contract. I mean, the thing that's working in the Twins' favor is that they're not going to be surprised by anything. They had him last year. Their doctors have looked at him. They know what his medicals are. The Giants and the Mets apparently have been concerned about something that's popped up. Now, the one thing you can say is that the Twins signed Correa to a much shorter contract. Maybe all these concerns are about, what happens 8 years from now. But it really seems like if there's anybody out there that knows what they'd be getting into, it would be the Minnesota Twins. And, kudos for them for trying to swim in this end of the free agent pool. I still think that the Mets are probably the team with the best shot just because of the way Steve Cohen operates, right? I mean, Herb, you talk about the egg on his face. I don't think I don't think he cares about that, but B, I don't think he is going to let it get to that point, right? I mean, he's willing to throw money at anything. Why not throw money at a guy whose leg might give out in 9 years from now? You're trying to win a World Series right now and for the foreseeable future, not necessarily making these investments based on 10 years. You're making those investments 10 years down the road to get the player right now because that's what the market is dictating, and Steve Cohen certainly seems to know that. And is blowing the market up because of it, right? Saying, well, who cares what another team will give him? I'll give him twice as much because the money doesn't matter to him. And so I think that's why you got to have the Mets as the number one landing spot here still. It is fascinating. I think it's fascinating that the Twins are back in on things. Herb, you mentioned Scott Boras. This is probably Scott Boras' is work here. But hey, give the Twins credit for seeing a good player who obviously had a nice time playing for them last year and probably wouldn't be opposed to coming back if the price was right. They're the ones that possibly could make the price, or the contract, I should say, the most right for him, because they might not have to put in all this language worried about what comes down the pipe medically. What I will say, something that's interesting to me in reading some of these reports, is that Scott Boras has negotiated contracts like this before, with JD Martinez and other players when it comes to giving the team some insurance and what they can do down the road if the medicals do go a little sideways. But listen, Carlos Correa has never missed a day of Major League Baseball with an injury related to what these two teams have been so concerned about. Baseball, guys get hurt all the time. And contracts look terrible all the time. It doesn't, the possibility of players getting hurt and it affecting the contract never seems to stop teams from making these big offers in the past. So it's very curious as to what's going on with Carlos Correa this time, because, there have been players who've come off Tommy John surgery who get big deals. There have been players who, are consistently on the IL year in and year out with just regular baseball stuff. I mean, all that stuff exists. If you're signing a guy to a contract, if he's perfectly healthy right now, all that stuff could happen tomorrow. So baseball is set up in a guaranteed money way that dems the brakes, it kind of seems like. And so if you want somebody as good as Carlos Correa, you got to pay for him. And I think the Giants found that out really the hard way. And the Mets are probably still going to close the deal, but we'll see what happens.
My thoughts on a long-term deal like this one is 12 years. You get half of those years being good to great. You can take the end of the contract being not so great, i.e. Miguel Cabrera. In that he got MVPs, he got the Triple Crown. He was Miguel Cabrera for the majority of that contract. Now, these last couple of years have been really rough. 2022, not as much, but he was hurt all the time. This will be this upcoming year, his last year on that contract. If you ask any Tiger fan, was that deal worth it? They'll say, hell yes, it was worth it, because you got the superstar in his prime years doing what he did. And yeah, the back end is tough, but damn, it's Miguel Cabrera. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame wearing that Old English D.
Right.
That's a big time thing. And for the New York Mets, I think it's worth it. If you're getting a player of this caliber, and they didn't have as much production from their third baseman last year, adding Carlos Correa to the mix, a superstar, probably the second best free agent acquisition this year, right behind Aaron Judge, I think it's worth it. Even if you feel like your doctors are telling you that ankle is going to be arthritic, you're going to have troubles in years 35, 36, 37 on, I roll dice because I get 28, I get 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. And Carlos Correa should be, and as Vinnie said, he hasn't missed any time with that arthritic ankle or that ankle that he injured in his minor league career. I think it's well worth it, and I eventually think the Mets will come to their senses because of Scott Boras playing the game like he is. He's a master negotiator. He'll eventually go up with the New York Mets. And where would you rather stay, New York or Minnesota?
Yeah, well, but your point though about Miguel Cabrera, like I agree that certain guys, you just have to pay them to keep them in town, like Mike Trout. But with Trout and Cabrera, I mean, when they signed their deals, they signed with the teams that I think they were already most known for. When Cabrera signed that deal, he already been a Twin or a Tiger for about like 8 years at that point, because of the trade with Miami. Mike Trout's always been an Angel, right? Like Carlos Correa is trying to go to a new team, and we've heard this ankle described as a ticking time bomb. The years 29, 30, and 31 might be affected by like his Achilles blowing up. I think that's just the worry, is that it could be a season-ending injury, and that 12-year contract just becomes an 11-year contract automatically, and he's missing a year, and then you're rehabbing, and he's coming back to a deal that he signed when he was not injured or whatever. So I guess that's just the main concern. I mean, it'll be really interesting to read all the different guarantees, the different asterisks, the different writings for whatever contract he does sign. I agree with you, Vinny. I do think it's going to be the Mets. The fact that the first 2 paragraphs of that article are like, oh, the Twins are interested. And then it's like, the Mets are still in the bidding. Like the Twins even said, like, they know a big market team can blow them out of the water. And that's the thing. Like right now they're in a bidding war between the Mets. The thing that they have to do is beat the Mets offer, basically, or at least guarantee the most money, or give him the most outs, or give him the most opportunity to make money. That's all they have to do, and then they get Carlos Correa, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to do that. But hey, the kind of dance continues to go on. It's almost been a month. He signed with the Giants on the 14th of December. Do we have an end date, a guess end date on when this finally comes to a close? I mean, the fact that I think Ken and Dan are reporting this obviously feels like maybe the Boras side's getting itchy. Carlos Correa tackled Scott Boras when he told him the Mets news. So, I mean, will he be tackling him if, he signs for the Twins with the 285? I mean, what are our thoughts here? When does we see a solution on this?
I mean, Carlos Correa said that it's soon. It's going to be done. The contract language is pretty much done. So
Carlos Baerga said this?
Yeah, but of course we believe in Carlos Baerga, who's breaking all this news. I think it's going to be settled pretty soon, before the weekend's over. That Carlos Correa will be a Met. I don't think he's going to go to the Twins. I think that's just a negotiating tactic, which is smart because the Twins do have genuine interest. And as you said, he played there last year, and he said he enjoyed his time, but you're going to have to pay me for my services out there in Minnesota. So, yeah, I think the Minnesota Twins are doing the good jobs for Scott Boras, and then Carlos Correa will sign with the New York Mets by the end of the week.
I have no idea. Who knows? I mean, listen, it's been what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks since this happened, since he signed with the Mets, since he was reported to have signed with the Mets.
The 14th he signed with the Giants, and then the 22nd he signed with the Mets. So 8 days later. Yeah,
I mean, who knows? They did this physical weeks ago. I mean, that it's taken this long is crazy. Who knows if how much longer it takes? These negotiations could be a sticking point. But hey, I think you're right. When you say, hey, Scott Boras can go, hey, look, there's another team out there. You better jump on this. You better get it done. So maybe it's sooner rather than later. Obviously, I think it'll be done before spring training or anything like that. But yeah, I mean. He's supposed to already have been a Met for 2 weeks. I don't know why we would expect it to wrap up quickly all of a sudden.
Right. Well, we'll obviously be monitoring this and see what happens. Hopefully he doesn't become a Twin, because them adding a 5-WAR player is definitely something that White Sox fans don't want to see, even if his ankle is a quote unquote ticking time bomb. Because like Vinny said, he hasn't missed any time for it yet, which is the most important thing. We're going to take a break here. We're going to talk about Johnny Cueto going to South Beach. But we got to let you know, when you're down in South Beach, when you're dealing with the sun, you got to pick up some Shady Rays. They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this winter, because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. They make quality sunglasses that we could tell you about when we hold them in our hands. They are just as good as any other expensive pair of sunglasses that I've worn or held in my hand. And Shady Rays customers seem to agree, with over 200 5-star reviews. And Shady Rays stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they will throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. They offer free returns and exchanges. You either love the shades, or Shady Rays will pay them to ship them back. So right now, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades. We also got to let you know about Game Time. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. If you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, the 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert, it is possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you never thought you could buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Blackhawks tickets. They're at the United Center on Thursday, or Bulls tickets. They are at the UC on Friday, because Game Time was created by the fans for the fans, and that's why they guarantee the lowest price out there. So if you love CHGO, then you love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. Around 1:17 a.m., John Heyman tweeted out that Johnny Cueto was going down
to bed, John Heyman. Go to bed.
No days off. Hey, Johnny Cueto, a night owl, signing deals in the late hours. But we got the news that John Heyman, who was not going to bed, is in agreement.
Hey, Sean, we got some other news too. You might want to back up off of this one. We got more Correa talk to do.
Oh,
he's coming back to the AL Central. At least for now, he is.
Just talked about it. Wow.
So forget everything we just said the last 20 minutes, because there you go. Multiple reports say that Carlos Correa is going back to the Twins. Jeff Passan of ESPN.com has it 6 years, $200 million. There are some stuff in there, vesting options that can get him up to 270. But White Sox fans are going to have to deal with watching that guy for the next decade. Fuck.
That's exactly what I didn't want. That's why I was talking about it. I wanted to keep monitoring the situation, just because it was never done. And I guess it's still not done. They haven't announced him. They haven't done the physical, but I mean, he just played for him. I mean, this makes the most sense to just kind of wrap it up, get it done, announce him. And I mean, you really don't even have to announce him, right?
This is wild. See, here's the thing, because we can't even go full throttle on this now, because you're right. They have to still do the physical. And I mean, like, we know by now, right? Fool me. You can fool me twice. You can't fool me a third time. Right. But again, the Twins, as I just said, they know. They're the team that knows what this leg looks like better than anybody else. They just watched him play on it for an entire season. It's a great move for them. It's a bad move for the White Sox. And I was thinking about this earlier, right? So you had almost all of the big free agents landed in the National League this year, and Carlos Correa was briefly one of those. But with the exception of Rodon going to the Yankees. I should say change, because obviously Aaron Judge goes to the Yankees too. But, DeGrom going down to Texas, and now Correa going to Minnesota. Most of the damage was staying in the National League. And it's like, all right, if you're the White Sox or any other AL team trying to win the World Series, of course, I forget Jose Abreu to Houston as well.
And Carlos Rodon to the Yankees. I mean, really, like,
yeah,
the two former White Sox just stayed in the AL.
Sure. But I guess the point being that, like, the road to the AL championship seemingly as easy, if not easier, as it was before. And now Carlos Correa is going to come and blow up the whole outlook for the AL Central. Now, remember, they had Carlos Correa last year, and the Twins were not good. The Twins were worse than the White Sox, who everybody was freaking out. They were so bad at 500. So the Twins still got to play the games and win. I don't know if even with Correa, you can say, they are far and away the favorite in the AL Central. They just had him last year and finished third. The White Sox might still have, I think I would probably argue they still have a better roster than the Twins. But hey, the Twins have shown an aggression in trying to get things done, not just with this move, but what they did last trade deadline, what they did last offseason. The Twins are trying to stay in this, and it might not have worked last year, as we all know what the results in the standings were. But I think right now they've got probably as good a shot as anybody to compete for an AL Central title in 2023.
Well, and that's my biggest worry is, like, with the White Sox, you just were looking up at the Guardians, and the Twins, I think, have the same excuse the White Sox did. I mean, injuries. I mean, Byron Buxton didn't play 100+ games. When that player plays 100+, right? But when he plays 100+ games, if he ever does, or if he ever does again, like, he could be a 9-WAR player. I mean, like, that guy is a massive game changer. So if they are healthy, and their rotation went through it too. I mean, they acquired Tyler Mahle, and then he immediately got injured. I know Sonny Gray was dealing with stuff as well. Kenta Maeda was out. I mean, like, if they have health in their their rotation, which is all right-handers, by the way, which is the White Sox, big bugaboo. But it's concerning just because it's a very well-run franchise, and the fact that they're taking this calculated risk scares me. Like this is a team that isn't screwing around. And when you're making big moves like this to extend Buxton and sign Carlos Correa to a possibly $270 million 6-year deal, like you're not screwing around. And that's a team that you don't want to see in your division. And the fact that now the White Sox have to look up at Cleveland and still keep their eyes behind them at Minnesota chasing them, like it just makes their job even more difficult. And now I feel like it just kind of forces Rick Hahn to at least sure up second base in some way. We talked about that 39, the 40-man roster spot, it being at 39 right now. It just seems like that has to be a veteran second base in some way, whether it be a trade or a free agent signing like Josh Harrison. Like the White Sox really can't have any holes on their lineup, in my opinion, just because the Twins have so much star power, and the Guardians, they didn't miss. They didn't make a mistake last year. They were so well coached, so well run. The White Sox need to have their talent show up, just like we've been saying with this Andrew Benintendi signing. Like now it's even more imperative that Eloy Jimenez plays 140 games, that Andrew Vaughn hits 25 plus home runs, that Luis Roberts an MVP candidate, that Tim Anderson's able to be contending for a batting title. Like now that all just becomes so much more important. At least Elvis Andrus won't be a Minnesota Twin.
Just wow. I mean, I just can't believe it. That is a great move for the Minnesota Twins. Now, we're just talking about the pitching staff being the thing that they need to fix. I don't know if they're going to fix it on the free agent market because there's not a lot of quality pitchers still out there. But you don't sign this guy for 6 years, $200 million that can invest up to $270 just to have that mediocre pitching staff go along with it. If Byron Buxton, and it's a huge if, plays 100 games, and I know my guy Who's Your Daddy thinks that 221 average is like woeful. I'm not looking at his average. I'm looking at the home runs. I'm looking at the home base, and I'm looking at the slugging and the premium glove he has in center field. That man finds a way to get on the field and stay on the field. And Carlos Correa with that, the sky's the limit for the Minnesota Twins because they do have young players coming up. They do have the availability and the willingness to spend money. And so this is scary for the White Sox. Very scary that you have a superstar. And remember I said that the best player in the AL Central resides in Cleveland. I'm not sure after this year if that's still going to be the truth because Carlos Correa is phenomenal.
We do have a super chat here from Stephen Bardo. A healthy 1-2 punch to Buxton/Correa over Robert TA. That's my opinion. Absolutely. And I mean, just to address the Who's Your Daddy thing, talking about Buxton was playing when he was playing, hit 221. Let's cool it on the 9 war talk. He's a guy that is in the 90th percentile in average exit velocity, max exit velocity, hard hit percentage, sprint speed, barrel percentage, arm strength. Like this man is the athlete of all athletes. He is the best athlete in the AL Central.
In 61 games in 2021, 4 F4.
That was me. Yeah.
Oh, that's you. Okay. Just ridiculous. Like, just let him play a full game. Play a full year. That man is dynamic. And yes, that's the big if. Also the big if with the White Sox too, with Eloy and Luis Robert. But don't like act like this man ain't a champion. When he plays, as we saw with Liam Hendricks and the 3-1 count, the ball goes far, really far, even against the best closer in the game. That's how good he is.
I don't think this changes anything for the White Sox in terms of what they need to do to be successful. I don't think they all of a sudden need to run out and, match what Minnesota just did. It didn't seem from what the talk that we heard from Rick Hahn all offseason that was going to be something they were even capable of doing anyway. I'm sure they're very happy with Andrew Benintendi, but it all comes down to them the same thing that it came down to before, which is all the guys that were real bad last year need to be real good this year. And if they're going to do that, they're going to be better than the Minnesota Twins. They're going to be better than the Cleveland Guardians. They're going to be a team that can do what they want to do and compete for a championship in the American League. The problem is that those are a lot of ifs, and we don't know if that's going to happen or come close to even happening based on what we saw last season. The Twins are good. They have a good lineup. And they've got some pitchers. They don't have You know, they don't have a pitching staff as good as the White Sox have, but they've got some starting pitchers that can give the White Sox fits. And so when those two teams play each other, what is it, 12 or roughly 12 times in 2023, then we can talk all about this. But I think right now, you know, the AL Central was already up for grabs. I believe that. That's no slight to the Cleveland Guardians. It's that the White Sox are good enough that they should be able to win it. The Twins have the talent that they should be able to compete for it, and neither of those teams did last year, allowing the Guardians to really kind of run away with things. So now you got three teams at the top, and it should be a dogfight all year long, which it wasn't. I mean, this time last year, we were like, the White Sox, you know, they got this. Like, it should be, the White Sox should be running away with it. It's that the White Sox have their team. That's very clearly what they came into this offseason thinking. We got our guys. We'll go get an Andrew Benintendi to add to him, and that's a big deal, absolutely. But we got our guys. They just need to go do what they're supposed to do. And Carlos Correa joining the division doesn't change that in any way.
Just think about
rejoining the division, I should say.
The Twins initially offered this man 10 years, $285. If he maxes out, he gets 6 years, $270. If you're a Major League Baseball player with pretty good track record, a good pre-RBers or RBers, there's no way you should go along with your life without having Scott Boras and his people represent you. That man, look at what he's done. That's a masterclass right there. He's got his client $270 if that client maxes out.
Right, but
just a brilliant mind, Scott Boras. I know we hate him because he does his job very well, but no, I mean, smart Dylan Cease. Be with Scott Boras so you get the most money for your wares. That's an awesome job by Scott Boras.
Congrats to the Twins too. I mean, they clearly had a budget of $285, and I think that they came to the decision after what did we just say? 4 months of going back and forth, whether he's a Giant or a Met. They decided that this player was still worth just $285 in general, and whatever way that was split up. You know, they still stuck to that budget and got underneath that total and got a superstar. And I do, you know, Alex is saying some of the parts means more than the individual talent. Correa and Buxton are great. No disagreements there, but the rest of that roster stinks. I don't know about that. We'll look at the roster in a second. But even Who's Your Daddy saying, either guy can hit home runs or he can't. A 320-foot home run is the same as a 400-foot home run. Buxton can hit home runs, but come on, guys. He hasn't led them to a championship yet. It's just about the White Sox in 2023, and it just makes their ability to win the AL Central even more tough. And that's not even been their goal. I mean, what they set their goal to be is World Series. So, like, they just have to get over this hurdle before they have to go through the actual hurdle of the playoffs. It's just making their job tougher. And what we saw with the Guardians, they had their 90th percentile season in 2022. Doesn't mean they're going to have that in 2023. They might deal with injuries to Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, whoever, and it might derail their season. But the Twins now in 2023, this is a different team that could have a 90th percentile season better than your team if Correa and Buxton stay healthy. Luis Arraez just won a batting championship. He's leading off. Then Correa, Buxton, Polanco, Kepler, Miranda, Gallo, Vasquez, Nick Gordon. I mean, honestly, the two guys that I'm kind of like iffy on are Kepler and Gordon, but outside of that, that's a solid lineup.
That's a really solid lineup. Luis Arraez. We know that. Totally, La Russa knows that. That's the most dangerous person in that lineup right there. So they got better this offseason. Definitively, did the White Sox get better? Yeah, a little bit, but Minnesota got better.
They lost Jose Abreu. We know that.
Exactly.
And the Twins didn't lose their best player. They might have briefly, but they got him back.
So all the people in the chat saying, well, they had all these players last year and they didn't look what they did. Same thing with the White Sox. And as Vinny brought up, they lost their best player, their team leader. So I know you guys are not scared, and that's cool. And you want to talk tough against the Minnesota Twins. I got it. This is a real time, big time deal for the Minnesota Twins and the AL Central because, as Sean said, well, now our road is that much tougher because they got a superstar there still. We thought that they had, as a team had faltered. Now the guy that we were thinking about getting, Joey Gallo, if he does his thing that we were expecting him to do, that's troubles.
Yeah,
they got all these players that are just, and Miranda, rookie year was great. If he continues that into his sophomore year, troubles.
I'm not sure they're done too. I mean, they added Carlos Correa. They were in talks with Carlos Rodon. Obviously, he's a Yankee now. They extended Byron Buxton, but you even look at what they got at the trade deadline. Tyler Mahle from the Reds last year, and then they went out and got a huge closer in Jorge Lopez as well. So you look at that rotation. Sonny Gray had an ERA under or basically at 3.08. Joe Ryan had an ERA at 3.55, but that was under 3.30 at some points of this season as well. Tyler Mahle ended up having a lot of injury issues near the end of that year, but he's a very, very talented pitcher. And if he does have the health, he's a guy that I think could absolutely just dominate the White Sox. Back in 2021, 180 innings pitched, a 3.75 ERA. Kenta Maeda missed the 2022 year with Tommy John surgery, but we know him to be difficult. But that might be a spot that they want to upgrade and then move him to a swing role. And then Bailey Ober, the big, tall right-hander, 3.21 ERA last year, and he's dominated the White Sox before. So I don't know. Like, this is a team that clearly isn't screwing around, and I don't know if the Twins are done. So the saga is insane. And I just think that the Twins clearly are in contention. And if they're going to be spending $270 million, I don't think they're going to be sitting on their hands and not, they're going to continue to improve this team. So like, that's the worry there. So yeah, very, very interesting news with the Twins here, the Twins signing Carlos Correa to a 6-year, $200 million deal with incentives that could bring that up to 270. Let's take another break here, and then we'll talk Johnny Cueto, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll save who he play for the next time. Got to let you know about ComEd Lighting. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and business in the communities we serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across our territory. And customers can inquire about how to upgrade updated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facilities' energy usage, and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor-outdoor lighting and network lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. So visit ComEd.com/poweringbiz. That's ComEd.com/poweringbiz now to start saving money and energy. And to start a project, contact us at 1-855-433-2700. For more information, you can email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. And we also got to let you know about FOCO. Chicago, we already got the best coverage for your favorite teams, so get fitted in the best sports gear around. FOCO has you covered from Soldier Field to the front room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. You can go check out the Andrew Benintendi University of Arkansas bobblehead that's out there, White Sox fans. Over at FOCO. You can check them out, FOCO, FOCO.com. If you're looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life or the Pig Suey fan in your life, FOCO's got you covered with hoodies and bobbleheads to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. So check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. And for all non-pre-sale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Very rude of the Twins to interrupt our Johnny Cueto segue and segment and even throw off the entire game show. We were trying to have fun for the people, and we can't do that.
Hey, it's okay. Hey, breaking news. This is why people tune into the special 11 a.m. edition of the CHGO White Sox podcast.
Exactly. And we didn't plan this. I saw AJ say, did you guys plan this? We did not plan this. As you know,
did Scott Boras give us a heads up?
I just said, right before that happened. Scott Boras wasn't giving this heads up as I thought he was going to be a Met, just 20 minutes ago. So let's get into Johnny Cueto, who will be a Marlin in 2023. Craig Mish and John Heyman were on the reporting of this deal. Craig Mish saying free agent pitcher Johnny Cueto is in agreement with the Miami Marlins. Sources confirm Cueto is guaranteed $8.5 million in the agreement per source. In 2023, he's worth $6 million. And in 2024, he'll have a 10.5 club option and a $2.5 million buyout. So effectively, he is guaranteed $8.5 million this year from the Miami Marlins. What do we make of Johnny Cueto getting that back?
Good for him. Good for him. because here, this is a guy who signed a minor league deal last year during the spring to pitch for the Charlotte Knights, more so perhaps than the Chicago White Sox. Obviously didn't work out that way, but and hey, he was terrific for the White Sox. I don't think we can say that enough. We didn't say it enough times during the season, and boy, did we say it a lot. But this is a guy who earned what he got, turned his career around. Good job. He's going to be going and pitching for what is quietly a very stacked pitching staff down there in Miami. But hey, the NL East is no easy place to win, and I don't think the Marlins plan on making much noise down there. But if Johnny Cueto pitches close to the way he did last year, their chances to do so obviously increases.
Yeah, he's joining, as Vinny said, Alcantara, Lopez, Luzardo. I mean, they have a solid rotation there, and the hitting is a little light. But Johnny, get your money. That's awesome for him to do that. Now, would I want the White Sox to do that? Probably not. It's tough to depend on a 36-year-old dude that just had a pretty good year with the White Sox, but the peripherals, they always scare me. Like I know that Sean has some number out of the Scrabble board he's going to throw out there and say, hey, actually, Herb, this is great. I just think it's going to be really tough for the White Sox to say that to their fans. Like, hey, man, we're bringing back this 36-year-old guy who had a great year for you and you love him and he's riding his horses into the sunset. It's going to be tough to say this is the guy we're going to be depending on for our fifth starter. I like the move the White Sox made to secure a more solid, younger arm in Mike Clevinger.
Well, 5 years is the age difference, right? I mean, Cueto's 5 years older than Clevinger. I mean, you get to a point where unless you're Jose Abreu, you can't really bank on one great season after another once you get up there into your mid-30s. And I think, the Sox probably made the less risky bet in Clevinger than they would have in bringing Cueto back for a similar amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is it's a similar amount of money. Clevinger is guaranteed $8 million, and he also has a $3 million buyout. Or is it 3? Or is it? Yeah, I think it's 3. A $3 million buyout. It might be $3.5 million buyout. In this year. So the guaranteed money is about the same, 8 compared to 8.5. And then obviously he'll get money, Clevinger, this offseason. But I mean, the White Sox had their choice and they went with Clevinger, and I would go the same way. And Johnny Cueto was fantastic with runners when he got them on, but like that just isn't like the luck isn't going to last with that. And when you're looking at just the pitchers themselves, I don't think Johnny Cueto is that physically imposing. He's what, like 5'11", like 225. Like he's kind of he's not 6'4" like Mike Clevinger is. Like Clevinger is built like a pitcher, long, lengthy. Where Cueto, it's all about this skill, and it was like watching a masterclass. I mean, last year, I mean, at some points, just he could go to any pitch that he wanted. He was able to command it, and he knew what the batted ball profile would be if a guy took a swing at it. It was ridiculous. But I mean, also we were concerned that he wasn't even going to hold up the entire year just because he's had so many injury issues in the past couple of years with Cincinnati and San Francisco. So I don't know, like it just makes a lot of sense with Clevinger here because I think the athlete is better. I don't know if the pitcher's better, but the athlete's better. And I'd rather risk on the athlete at this point, especially with the age difference.
And I'm looking forward to him getting into that Miami Marlins clubhouse and seeing what Alcantara can do and Lopez can do with the conditioning program that Johnny Cueto goes through, and just the knowledge he can share with those guys and say, yeah, you're at the top of the league, Sandy, but you can be better. Your stamina could be better. This is how you get there. I'm just looking forward for him mentoring those young guys so they can become like the best pitchers. And I know he just won a Cy Young. Win multiple Cy Youngs because you got that type of filthy stuff. And I think Johnny Cueto down there being mentors to those guys will do them well.
I'd like to see him ride a horse down Hotel Row in Miami Beach. Yeah. I think that would be a great marketing strategy by the Miami Marlins. Get people over that ballpark.
Yeah. What's the one right on South Beach where all the Art Deco? Is that Hotel Row?
It would be Hotel Row. Yeah, I believe it's Ocean Boulevard. Yes, is that
Ocean?
Right?
Yeah, Ocean Boulevard. I think it's a fantastic idea. It's very clearly what they should do is just put them in the most ridiculous outfit ever. Get a bedazzled, diamond out horse and have him just ride up and down, high-fiving everybody. And people don't need to know who he is because he's a man on a horse, and that's all you need to know.
Or he could get too, he shares his pictures of his horses and he tells us the names of his horses and everything like that. I think it's 2 new horses, Crockett and Tubbs.
Perfect. Sean, you get that reference?
No, but I like it. I like the names,
God,
no matter
Sean.
what.
It's wasted on you. It's Miami Vice.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense. Hey, Vinny, it's a good reference because
it is a good reference.
Miami,
it's not
Vice
as good when you have to explain it.
The Miami Marlins. That's good. That's because it's the same city, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here. Steven told us to keep it at 45. So if I'm ruining, if I'm ruining the vibes like this, I think we better just end the show. That's Vinnie Duber. You could read his latest article on allchgo.com about Liam Hendriks. Do you root for the pizza to come early? I know you said sports writers don't root for anything, but like, when you're ordering at like a tavern style place and you place an order and they're like, I'll be like 45 minutes and it comes out at 35. Like, you're not rooting for it to come out at like 35. Like, I'm just saying, like,
catching me in a technicality there, are you?
Yeah. But I think it was a fantastic post because we all are rooting for Liam. But Vinny does give a great insight on the person. Also, I'm surprised we haven't mentioned the Infinity Gauntlet. Just because that thing's ridiculous that he had. So hopefully Liam could possess the power of the stones. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at AcknerWall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. We will talk to you tomorrow at our regularly scheduled time, 4 p.m. And we will have more Carlos Correa fallout. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just a twin tomorrow. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Go Sox.